Podcast. I'm your host, Patrick, and I have Pastor Stewart here with me.
Well done.
Hey, we're having a good week.
Hey.
So
Father's Day's coming up.
It is. And that's actually kind of what we're going to get to talk about a little bit today is what it looks like to be a godly father or things that God has called us to do as fathers.
Yep.
So
What are y'all doing for this weekend?
Oh, we are going to the beach.
What part?
Gulf Shores.
Awesome. Was that planned?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if she surprised you or what.
No, this was one of those months in advance planned.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just found out last night or yesterday that Lindsay asked me last week what we wanted to do for Father's Day weekend. I'm like, I'm good to sit at home and do nothing. I'm really fine with that. So we're going to Atlanta Braves game Friday night.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited about that.
That is really awesome.
I think my kids are more excited than I am.
I mean, I can understand that,
Yeah.
but yeah. We attended our first Braves game this year and it was awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. Great atmosphere. Love
It's
it.
going to be fun.
So before we get
here?
broke into it here too much and start the emotional roller coaster that is to be this episode, let's talk about a couple of icebreakers. One is going to be a little more on the fun side. One is going to be maybe a little more serious.
Oh boy.
So what is your favorite smell?
Favorite smell?
What is your favorite smell?
Ooh, favorite smell. It would have to be a new car smell. You know,
Okay.
the new car smell smells so good. And then you go to Family Dollar or AutoZone, it says new car scent smell. Dude, they don't smell anything the same.
The black ice.
Yeah, no, it's ugh. I mean, it smells good, but that new car smell, I'll literally just sit there and go,
Right. All right.
I don't know. My wife's favorite smell, you're never going to guess it. Or one of them. I'll say one of them.
No clue.
Just guess. You're not going to get it. I just want you to feel awkward on the spot right now.
Fresh apple pie.
No, but that does sound good. I'm actually kind of hungry right now. Gasoline.
Really?
She loves the smell of gasoline.
Okay.
She does. And I'm like,
so
maybe I don't know if that's good for you or not, but it is what it is.
So oddly enough, I'm going to throw Logan under the bus here too. Hers is not gasoline, but diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing.
Diesel. Smells good.
She gets a kick out of that one.
Yeah. What's wrong with our wives?
Well, first off, they chose us. So
the first thing. Second thing, they're addicted to diesel.
And
gasoline.
Which, if they sniffed enough of that might be why they chose us.
That's exactly why they chose us.
So one that's maybe gonna, I don't know what this is. So we may, or what yours is. So this may or may not actually go into the podcast, but perhaps. What's the story behind the wallpaper on your cell phone?
Do you know what my wallpaper is?
I do not.
Okay. It's my wife.
Okay.
It's a picture of my wife. That's probably one of the best pictures of my wife that I took. I took that with my new camera. So that was our trip to Tulum, Mexico.
Okay.
That we went a few weeks ago. I don't know. I'm kind of weird. I guess you'd call it OCD, but I always have my family on my phone or iPad or computer so people will see it. But no, this is just me. Facebook profile picture is usually either me or me and my wife.
Yep.
But the cover photo usually has my kids because I never liked looking at people's profile pictures, especially pastors, and be like, okay, I didn't know that you were married and I didn't know you had kids. So I want them to right off the bat know.
Right.
So mine would be that one. It's a beautiful picture of my wife that I took off of my brand new Sony A7 III with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens. Anyways, that's amazing. I love it. And, but I love her very much. And, we had a really good time. She and I just started going to a trip by ourselves. We didn't start doing it until about last year. We would always say, man, we never have gone anywhere by ourselves. We always go with the kids. There's no time. Well, my stepdad told me one time, said, son, you need to make time.
Right.
And so we started going to places by ourselves. And so the first year, which was last year, we went to Cancun, Mexico, which was a lot of fun. And this year we went to Tulum, Mexico, which is a lot of fun.
Right.
So my wife was here. We talked about which one was better.
Yeah,
But the Ryu resorts, anyways, a lot better food. This one was just more family oriented.
I got you.
So we had fun time. So that's mine. What's your wallpaper?
Mine is also very similar. Mine is a picture of me and my wife. I don't know if you can see that, but kind of the same thing. And I think we might have been going the same time as y'all. We were going to
anniversary trip.
Where'd
y'all go?
We went to Jekyll Island in South Georgia. Yep.
Yeah.
And the picture is from Driftwood Beach, which happens to be one of mine and her favorite places to go.
Very cool. Didn't she have James Spann like repost one of her pictures?
Yes.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
the second time, the second year in a row we've been to Jekyll and he's reposted one of hers. The first one was from Sunset.
#favor.
Yeah. If Tyson's watching this, she's got you beat by 2 now.
Yep.
So every time he posts something on Facebook with the weather, he'll tag James Spann in it. He put a post on not long ago that was like, James, please just repost this, you know?
Well,
so,
I can tell you why Tyson Weldon, why he is not reposting your stuff. It's because you have an Android. If you'd switch to an iPhone, James Spann would probably like you a lot better.
Yeah, I can't get over that Android stuff, man. That's just oof.
Yep. Speaking of that, what a great Father's Day present for him to have a new baby.
Oh my gosh,
Andy,
I know, right?
Andy Blair.
That is awesome.
Yep,
and
very cool.
That guy he's going to be, I mean, he already is to his others, but he is going to be an awesome father.
Yep. T. Weldon.
Yeah. He's going to be good at it.
He's a good dude.
Yeah. Very good dude. Happy to have him, as a friend.
Yeah. They're good people, man. God's brought us a lot of good people to our church.
Yes.
All right. Let me do this.
Right.
So leave the camera where it is because I want to say something and see if he's probably not going to laugh, is he? He's probably not going to laugh. Okay. So let's not do this because I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Everybody likes a good dad joke. I'm not a good dad joke guy. Kenny Holman is like king at it. What did baby corn say to mama corn? Where's popcorn? Dumb.
It's funny, but it's horrible.
Why do you call seagulls? Why do seagulls fly over the ocean? Because if they flew over the bay, that we would call them bagels.
Bagels.
All right, let me give you this one. This one was kind of hard for me to understand, but then I was like, what did the 0 say to the 8? So what did the 0 say to the 8? Wow, that belt looks so good on you. Get it? All right, let's move on, please.
All right, Josh, if you're watching this or listening to this going down the road, please keep it between the lines.
Josh. Don't wreck, Josh. Don't even know who you are, Josh, but don't wreck.
Ricard.
Oh, Josh Richard. Oh,
yeah.
I was like,
no,
gosh.
he tells me, every week, like, hey, I listened to this one or I listened to that one, and which is super encouraging, but I really want him to be safe out there.
All right, cool. Josh, don't wreck, please.
Yeah. So I guess to dive into actually what we want to talk about today, being a godly father. And I know me and you had somewhat talked about it earlier in the week, and you had made mention that you had actually had a sermon based on this particular subject. Yeah. So that being said, is there any like major key points you want to just tackle right out of the gate? That's something that just has stood out to you?
Well, I mean, I feel like we could say a lot of things and start kind of anywhere with this. A few years ago, I talked about a sermon called A Recipe for a Kingdom Father, because I think there's a lot of good dads out there that we need more kingdom dads. And so I feel like there's there's many ingredients that you could have for it. When you think about making a pie or a cake or, biscuits or something like that. I was like, my wife always makes fun of me because I just recently got TikTok because all I do is post like stuff like this. And she's like, hey, it's okay. Well, I've always been a youth pastor that's preached against it. So I've gotten them. If you look at my algorithms, it's all DIY stuff. It's all cooking, grilling stuff, or it's usually like, I don't know, it's just like weird stuff. And so like, I'm the type of dude that I'm sitting in bed at night, sometimes, hey, good night, love you. And then I'm like sitting there on TikTok or Instagram, mainly is my Instagram reels, but then it's like so loud and Lindsay will look over at me and go, would you please turn that volume down? And it's like, it's not that loud to me. So it's like either like a jackhammer or a drill or something like that. So, there's a lot of, I was watching this guy on Instagram the other day, and Southern Boys Outdoors, and there was another guy, and they were making homemade biscuits. Oh my gosh, I was so hungry at the end of it. It's like fresh strawberry, fresh blueberry biscuits, and the ingredients. It reminded me of this actually when you said it. Is that there's ingredients? If you miss one ingredient, it's not gonna taste right.
Right.
And so there's probably 100 different ingredients to a godly husband, godly father, especially Father's Day. I know that Father's Day is sensitive to some people. Some people don't have a dad. Some people don't have moms. Some people have moms that are the dads, that like raised them as single parents. And so I'm going to start out with this quote. There's a guy named by the name, I'm probably going to butcher his last name, Jim Valvano. And he's apparently used to play ball for North Carolina State, and was a well-known athlete. But he said, my father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person, is that he believed in me. And I think my wife, and she jokes with me all the time, is that she and my kids are always looking for my attention. And so I made the comment one time to him, was like, I don't have a lot of attention to give. Like, I have little here, little here, little here, little here. And so it's tough. Everybody wants your attention, but again, I got reflecting on it this week, is that, that's not a down thing to think negative about. Like, that's a good thing that your kids and your wife want your attention.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so, I've always been a person that's not, how can I put this? I'm not very needy. Some people would probably say otherwise. I'm not very needy, but needy people, don't read me wrong. Needy people kind of, like push me away. Like, I push them away. If you say like, hey, I need you, and I need you. I'm like, okay, this is against my humanity here. Like, I need some breaks here. But with my wife and my kids, like, the greatest gift that, like what Jim was saying, is that the greatest gift that I could give them is that I believed in them. And, I think dads, I had great examples growing up. I had a great dad, great stepdad, taught me a lot of things, some bouncy, rugged areas, throughout the years. But I think dads overthink the way that a dad should be. Would you agree or not agree?
I would 100%
We
agree.
overthink this stuff. And so growing up, I used to think a dad was go to work from 6 to 7, 6 in the morning, 7 at night, and you get home, kick your feet up in the chair, your wife brings you food, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a different side to a dad, being a dad, that I've seen, like, especially with Lindsay's dad, my father-in-law, very loving, very caring, but he was always a part of his kids' lives. And so he and I were talking this week while we were at camp meeting.
Yep.
And he and I were talking about different things. And I said, Rick, why is it that you wanted to be so present? Like, why is it that, you didn't have a good example? What taught you to be that way? He said, I saw the effect that it had on me growing up with not having parents that were there. So, and his dad was a pastor,
Right.
and there's many different factors there. His dad was a great guy.
Yeah.
But he was so focused and so busy on other things that he forgot him. And I remember my father-in-law telling me that he got a job, and after school he would go to his job and he would get home at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock more, because he was very mischievous. He'd get off work and then come home and be crazy. So I was like, man, did your parents ever ask where you were? And he's like, no, the only time I saw my parents was Saturday and Sunday. That's sad.
Yeah.
Like, that's really hard. And he said, that's why I went through so many problems, and I was the way I was. And that's why I raised my girls the way that I raised them, is because I didn't have that example.
Yeah.
And so I think as dads, we overcomplicate it, and, we want to do for them instead of just being there for them. And that's the same way with God. God wants us to do for him, but he just wants us to be with him.
Yeah.
He just wants us to be. And so I think one of the problems that dads have is that we're really good at fixing things, but we're not good at fixing ourselves.
Yep. And on that point, you know, in most cases, when we think of God, we think of love, right?
Yeah.
But we think of I'll put it this way. I was listening to a podcast earlier today with a guy. He's actually a politician from Virginia. I'm going to do the same as you. I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Nick Freitas.
Mhm.
Anyways, he was talking about raising daughters. And he said when he was in the military that he had a buddy who was a womanizer,
Yeah.
bad. And he went to him and said, "Hey, what do I do to keep my daughters from ending up with someone like you?" And he said, "Tell them you love them.
Yeah.
Because if
Absolutely.
you don't, they'll believe the first man that tells them they does."
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's the same, along
Yeah.
those same lines. Like,
Yeah.
love,
We have to love them.
yes, and
I mean,
tell them what we do.
Yeah. You have to. Love is so much more than. And listen to me. I'm not like the perfect person that loves. Like I wish I knew then what I know now. I wish I knew then what I know now. And obviously in life there's tests and there's things that happen in your marriage and your family that the enemy comes against you. And bottom line, the enemy hates marriages, the enemy hates godly marriages, and the enemy hates families.
Yeah.
Because like I said Sunday morning, that the devil, if he can't get the church, so what he wants to do is he wants to get the family. If he can get the family, then he'll get the church. And everything hinges off the family. But before God sends a revival to the world, before God sends it to the home, he sends it to our hearts. And so man is prideful. Men are more prideful than women. I get that. I get that. But one of the biggest struggles that I have as a father is that when I feel like I mess up, I feel like that it kind of pushes away the godly example. And it feels like, it's just a battlefield of the mind. You feel like you're a Pharisee. You feel like you're I don't want to be that person to my kids. I want to be the same person no matter what. And I'll be honest with you, I lose my junk sometimes. We all do, don't we?
Yep. Actually, that's what I was going to say. I lost mine on Connor just about probably 30, 45 minutes ago. And it's the same thing you're talking about, because 5 minutes after, I'm like, if God's supposed to be the father and he thinks that's what a father looks like, why would he turn to him?
Yeah.
Because I reacted in a very poor way that when we get finished here, I probably need to apologize for.
Well, I think a lot of us go through different seasons of that. And there's different seasons as a dad to where you feel like you're doing good and then you're not doing good. And then there's just seasons to where it's easier. Sometimes it's harder.
Yeah.
But one of the greatest examples is when Jesus said, you forgive people 70 times 7.
Right.
But though a righteous man falls, the secret to a righteous man is not that he falls and stays down, but that he gets up again. And so some of the greatest examples that we can, the greatest thing we can ever do to our kids is in the moment is just say, I'm sorry. And what I'm learning is that more and more and more and more is that I may not feel like it, but it's based off of, what's right in the moment, not what you feel, but what's right in the moment. So a while back ago, I asked the Lord, I've told the Lord about a lot lately, I feel like. But one of the things I told the Lord just recently was, God, I want you to give me more love for my wife and for my kids. And I said, I feel like they get the brunt end of things, stressful day, stressful week, or whatever it may be. I feel like they get the brunt end of it. And God, I want you to give me more love for them. And my wife told me the other day, she said, I could tell a little bit of a difference. And I'm like, wow, that makes me feel good. Thanks. But then also I'm like, I should be like this all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I love my family, but when you're in the moment, you just saying you're sorry. I never heard my dad say, I'm sorry.
Right.
I never heard my dad say, son, I'm sorry I messed up. Boy, my kids, I'm not ashamed to tell my kids, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like I should not have said that. Like Preston is my boys are very sensitive. They're a lot more sensitive than my girls are. Like my wife always jokes, says, well, the girls are more tough than the boys. Well, I digress. They're just more stubborn. But it's like in the moment, like I can say something to Andy and be like, oh, you know, in the mornings, girls, get up. It's time to get up in the morning. Come on, boys, get your butt up right now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's different. So it's different. Mom told me one time that it's just different raising boys than it is girls. And I'm like, you like my sister better. That's other words of saying you like my sister better than me. But anyways, I think dads just need to say I'm sorry, but we need to stop feeling like we need to fix everything and just start fixing us. And so if we want to fix everything around us, we need to fix us. And so sometimes that's saying, hey, I'm going to take the brunt into that situation and I'm going to make sure I'm the one that apologizes, or I'm going to make sure, because at the end of the day, like, you know, you think about it, the husband and the wife are coexistent together. The man is the head of the household. The wife is obviously the neck, but they both make different decisions. That doesn't mean that I walk into my house and say, hey, kids, you know, y'all are moving schools today. Like, I'm going to consult them, or I'm not going to look at my wife and say, you're quitting your job tomorrow, you're going to work here. Like, that's not what a godly husband is about. Like, so many people have commented that, said, well, I live in my husband's house and I want to obey him and his word. Well, number one, your husband doesn't go to church. Number two, your husband doesn't have a relationship with the Lord. Number three, he's abusive. Like, so when Paul says women submit, that talks about godly submission.
Right.
So, but like, like my wife and I were going through this book. We're in Tulum and listening to different podcasts about marriage. Is that is basically like you guys come in an agreement together, but like when the woman can't make a decision, that's when it's your responsibility to come in and go, okay, this is what we need to do. And if whatever happens, it's your responsibility to take on what happens.
Yep.
So I think a man, like when you think about it, a man and a father, what does that look like? A guy that comes in from work, hard working all day, sits in a recliner, wife makes him dinner, kicks his feet up, goes to bed, does the same thing over. Or a guy that loves to grill out, or a guy that loves to drink alcohol, you know, like all
Right.
those things. Like that's what society tells you what a strong guy is.
Yep.
That has nothing to do with how strong you are. It shows how weak you are. And so when you talk about a man, a father, a husband that's godly, that's kingdom minded, the first thing that you have to be is you have to be a man that is a man of the word.
Yes.
Like you have to let the word get inside of you. You can't let people define who you are. You have to let the Lord define who you are. And so, you know, a while back was praying, really convicted, and I, you know, just talking to the Lord about some things. And it's almost like sometimes you go, when was the last time your kids heard you crying out in prayer for them?
Right.
You know, and I can remember one time specifically being in the living room praying, and it was late at night and my kids were all asleep. Lindsay was asleep, and I heard a door open, and I was literally on my knees. I was praying. I was yelling out to the Lord about some things. I was just crying out to him. And my daughter, Andy, walks out, and she walks up to me and sitting there looking at me. And I'm like, hey, girl, what's up? And she was like, first thing that came out of her mouth was, oh, I'm sorry. And I'm like, sorry? Like, this is the perfect time for you to come. Like, join in with me. Come pray with me. Like, that's what I want you to do. Like, they shouldn't be, when we get into those moments, it shouldn't be like a closed off moment to where we're in a sound box in a room by ourselves. I need that. I can't listen to, you know, all these different things. Like, you need to get away with just you and the Lord. But the kid comes in and you're in your study with the Lord and they see the Bible and you snap at them. Like, what message does that send them?
Yeah.
It doesn't send a good one.
Mm-mm.
And so a man of the word is a man that's going to be patient. It's going to be kind. It's going to be loving. It's going to be self-controlled. You got to let the word get inside you, because our job is to point our kids to the one who created them. And what other better way than to use the Bible as a roadmap for our lives?
Yeah. And there's a word that you used there that I think gets mulled over a lot in Christianese, and that's the word cry out.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like you see the word cry out, a lot of people just think of yelling, screaming, or whatever, but it's more than that. It's a vulnerable, you're coming from a place of almost sorrow and vulnerability, crying out. Like it's more than just a yell or a scream. It's a petition to God at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that as parents or as fathers in general, there's a lot of men who will yell and scream, whether it be prayer at the kids, whatnot. I find myself doing it, but we have trouble getting into that vulnerable state with God and with our wives and with our children, and actually opening up those doors and letting the emotions come out. And I know, like, our relationship with God can't be solely based on emotions.
Yeah.
It's not.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely, it's a daily decision, but there is an emotional aspect to it.
Sure.
And we can't let that go to the wayside either.
Sure.
And I feel like that happens a lot as men because we feel like we can't show emotion.
Yeah. We talked about this last night. Actually, me and my wife did. Is for Christmas we took our kids to not Disney World, Disneyland in California, and so we took them there for Christmas, and that was their like big Christmas present. And when they got up Christmas morning, we had like different clues leading from different place to different place, and we had their luggage already packed, and like it was already packed, and so we had like different clues. It was really, really cool. So we ended up going, and I remember like how I am. I'm learning stress triggers. Okay. Got to figure these out. You got to figure these out. Traveling, cleaning up things, traffic. Basically what I need to do is I need to be a hermit is what I need to be. Those things are big triggers to me. And so I'm not saying that because I have something wrong with it, but I have to really guard myself in those moments as best as I possibly can. And so I'm human. And so, I've been told, hey, you tell too much. Well, I want people to know that they have a pastor and a preacher that deals with the same stuff as they do. Yep. And I remember we walked into Disney. No, it wasn't Disneyland. It was one at Universal. And they just opened up a new Mario World or something down there. And I'm telling you, I walked into Universal and going, where is everybody at? We walked to the new Mario World or whatever it was down there. And I'm like, oh, there they are. There was probably 15 to 20,000 people, and it was a tiny place. And I'm going, all right, Lindsay, we need to get out. Like, we got to get out. I've got to get up out of this place. And so I remember that triggered me. And so I just had to remove myself. I said, right, y'all can sit here if y'all want to. I'm removing myself because this is way too many people. And so right, I remember walking out and going to sit on a bench, and I'd kind of like not snapped, but you could tell I was aggravated, and that hurt my kids' feeling. And they were like, Daddy, what's wrong with you? You hate me. And I'm like, no, Daddy's just no, just not y'all's fault. It's people. So I remember I sat down with the girls, and they were asleep in the little wagon thing that we had gotten. They were asleep, and Lindsay took the boys in there, and all the kids had like some money that they had spent their grandparents got them for Christmas. That was their Christmas present. And I remember seeing them come back 30 minutes later or something. And I'm just like, decompressing. That's just kind of how I am. I like to decompress, be by myself sometimes. And Preston walks out with a bag, and he comes up to me and he pulls out a coffee mug that says Super Nintendo World. That's what the world's called, Super Nintendo. It says Super Nintendo World, and he pulls it out, and he said, here, Dad, I bought this for you. And so I'm thinking, okay, Lindsay bought it for me, but I know how she is. And Lindsay was like, no, he bought it with his own money. And so she said, he did that for you to make you feel better. And so I remember how bad I felt. I was like, oh, I feel terrible. Well, then recently my kids knew that I was kind of like in that moment again. And I've learned to like decompress and like stay away. And when I feel like I'm getting really anxious, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to sit down for a minute. House is a wreck. Kids, you've got 15 potato chip bags out everywhere. I see crumbs everywhere. I'm just going to sit before I react. And so I remember we sat down, and Casey was asking me about a movie he wanted to rent. And what's going through my mind is, sure, let's spend more money on stuff. Sure. And so Preston's over here, in our coffee area, and he's like going, ching, 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 ching. And I'm going, he's gonna break everything that we have over there. Well, I'm sitting down there, and all of a sudden he comes up to me. We're watching this movie as a family, and I see this cup in my face. He goes, "Here, Dad." I was like, "What is it?" It was that Super Nintendo coffee mug, and he said, "I got you something to drink to make you feel better." And so he associates that coffee cup with, this is how I help Dad in those moments. And so it really humbles you in those moments. And you're
Right.
like, what in the mess does that have anything to do with the dad? I think as dads, you have to learn to be sensitive, not just to the Holy Spirit, but you have to be sensitive to your kids. And
Right.
so when I saw that, it really broke my heart. And so we're human just like everybody else. But we used to, growing up, when we first had kids, I remember like they'd throw up, they'd do this, they'd do that. They're kids.
Right.
And so my wife looked at me one time. We were newly married and just had Kasem. I remember I was aggravated. There's complex reasons why. And I was aggravated. I remember what was going on. And she looked at me and she said, "It's not his fault he came into this world. We brought him into this world. God brought him into this world, and he shouldn't be punished for it."
Right.
And, it's just like, I feel like as a dad, I've learned more of what not to do through myself more than
Right.
what I should do right.
Right. No.
And so it's really a humbling thing. And so you have to be a man of the word, and you have to be a man of prayer. And so if anything you are, and you're like, "Man, I'm the best mechanic. I'm the best." Well, at the end of the day, if you're the best mechanic, if you are the greatest preacher, if you are the greatest cable runner, if you can fix anything with your hands. I love doing stuff. I can't just sit still. I love doing stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're not a man of the word and you're not a man of prayer, then you will not succeed in life at all, and you will lose your family.
Yeah. And going back to, I guess it was the last episode, I think you mentioned it on, when you were talking about Lindsay and you and her having that conversation, and you realizing, that she is a child of God's first.
Yep.
I that's kind of been in my mind this week, thinking about it. Like, not only as dads, we've got to remember that not only are our kids
Yeah.
an image of God, but they're an image of us.
Yep. Yep.
And when you combine those two, we have a lot of responsibility as to the people that they become, and they're going to learn who to become through
Right.
us.
Well, we have expectations as dads. We have expectations as dads for our kids, right? But we can't set the bar so high that where they can't meet it. Like, we have to set realistic expectations for them. So, for example, if I tell my 5-year-old, "Hey, go clean your room," she's going to be like, and I'm going, "Go clean your room." Well, in my mind, I know what that means. To her, she's going, "I'm going to go pick out what shoes I'm going to wear."
Right.
I'm going, "That's not what I asked you to do."
No, she's
Not what
going
I
to go
asked
turn
you
on
to do.
Chicken Banana.
Yeah. She's going to go turn on Chicken Banana. She's going to bring out a pair of heels and some, like, our kids are at VBS this week at a church down the road. And so we like to help community, like, just to support, and we hope people do the same for us. But like, we tell them to go brush their teeth. Well, Andy is sitting there. She's going, "Well, I'm hungry, Daddy." I'm going, "Boy, I'm fixing to wear your tail out." Like that they're kids. And so one of the things too, I'm in class and I'm taking one seminary class this summer, and for my master's degree. And one of the things that we talked about as pastoral counselors is you have to ask questions. And he stopped and he said, "Let me just say this to all the parents that are watching. Do not get mad at your kids for asking questions." And I'm going, wow, that's convicting. Like, when are we there? When are we there? When are we there? Like today, Eden asked us probably 13 times. I told my wife, I said, she asks every 6 minutes. She has it to the T every 6 minutes. When are we there? When are we there? When are we going? And I'm going, "God, is this you trying to pester me?" No, it's not. It's like they genuinely want to know. And so Preston, they come up with the most ridiculous questions. So like, they're starting to ask things about, like, my 11-year-old is starting to ask things about marriage.
Right.
I'm going, "Okay, where are you hearing this stuff from? Where are you hearing this?" He's like, "Well, one of the kids at school talked about it." And I'm going, golly, Pete, if I don't have that conversation with my kid, like they're going to tell them about it.
Yep.
So we've actually had semi conversations about that as an 11-year-old. Dude, I had that conversation when I was 13, 14 years old.
Yep.
And it just gets older and older. But going back to expectations, you have to set realistic expectations that your kids can hit. So instead of saying, hey, I want you to pay this $100,000 bill off, you say, hey, I want you to take that trash out, but praise them when they do that.
Right.
You have to praise them, do that. Boy, when I tell my kids that they've done a great thing, or I hug them, and I'm not like an affectionate person, like a affectionate, not affectionate oven, whatever, an affectionate person. I guess that's the right way to say it. Like when you show affection to your kids, that does so much more than a present. I can give Kason a new baseball bat, or he can do something with me in the altars at church, say, buddy, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for helping me. And it just lights him up, and it just changes his world. And so you have to set good expectations. You have to be the role model for your kids, how you treat your wife, because my boys are watching how I treat their mom and how I talk to their mom. The girls are watching because the boys are watching how I treat their mom, because they're going to look and say, hey, that's how I need to treat a woman.
Yeah.
For the girls, they're watching saying, oh, dad treats my mom this way. That's the expectation that I want. That's how they're going to be treated. So a lot of people want to be treated like trash because they saw their parents treat each other like trash, and they think that's the norm. That's not the norm. That shouldn't be the norm. And so for us, both sides taught us good things, but both sides of our parents taught us not good things. Yep. And so you have to learn. I feel like I learned a lot of churches I've been at. I've learned more of what not to do than what to do. And so for me as a dad, I look at that and go, okay, there's some things I know what to do, some things I know what to do. But the greatest present that I can give to my kid is my presence. Yep. Presence over presence all day long.
Yep. That's awesome. We need to get that printed on a shirt.
Yeah.
Fairview Dads Group or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But no, and I'll 100% agree with that. And that's one of those things, like every time, like we've talked about it before, but like I coach everything, right? Coach basketball, football, baseball, for my boys. And that is one of the things I've asked multiple times, like, hey, you want me to just like let somebody else handle this, coach you, whatnot? Like I'll step away if this is too much. I've never been told, Dad, no, I don't want you out there. It's always like, yeah, you know, that's one of those things. And I know like it may be, and it may look different for other people, you know, not every dad should coach. I mean, if we did, can you imagine a football team with 22 dads out there?
Oh,
that would be interesting.
Terrible. That'd be horrible.
But at the end of the day, like as dads, we are called to be present. I mean, and that can look like a lot of different things.
Right.
But along the same lines as God being omnipresent for us, we may not can be omnipresent for our kids, but we need to be present at all available moments.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess for me, to you, because I don't have this situation, is there any just definitive dad moments, things that you would say to do as a girl dad?
As a girl dad?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a daughter, so that's a little outside of my realm of expertise, which I ain't an expert at anything, but
girls are more, boys is like it's the testosterone levels. It's like they want to man you up. And I'm like, boys, no matter how big you get, you will never whip me. Like, I promise you will never whip me. But like with the boys, it's all like strength, testosterone. But with girls, it's like, I don't know. Me and the boys wrestle. Like I fight and stuff like that. The girls are like very cuddly, very loving, like they're the emotional side. And so my wife has been really good with that. With me is she'll say they're trying to connect with you emotionally and physically. Like, I want to hug them. I want to touch them. I want to, caress their hair and tell them, baby, y'all are beautiful. Like I tell them they're beautiful all the time. So the boys, if I tell them, boys, y'all are so good looking, they're going to go, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong with you, Dad?
Right.
But like we find different ways to connect, whether it's throwing football, throwing baseball, My boys love it when I ask them to do something with me.
Right.
So that's the way that we connect. So I don't know if that helps answer the question, but you raise a boy different than you do a girl. Whereas, for me, Andy, it's like you don't spank your kids, your girls, because they're girls. I don't spank my girls because they're girls. I whip my kids. Like I do. I'm like not proud to say that. I just do. But like I know that I can hurt my kids. Like I can hurt my girls
Yeah.
in being frustrated or being angry. So with the girls, I usually don't.
Right.
Boys, oh, it's on. Oh,
Right.
it's on. But it just depends on the moment to where sometimes grounding does it.
Yep.
Sometimes a belt does it. But when they like one of the biggest things, like the kids, they'll say to their mom, "Huh? What?" And I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I have bumps going up my spine right now. That makes me so angry." And so, but like, I don't know. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, that's all right. That you did. But like for me, being strictly boy dad and coming from a family that was just boys, like it's just me and my brother. So that being said, like for me, what I feel is important is as a godly father, it's okay to show your boys that you can be dangerous
Vulnerable.
too. Well, and dangerous, like show them that it's okay to be.
Yeah.
So like Jesus, I feel like if we look at him, he was a safe person,
Right.
but he was also dangerous. He didn't just go in there and flip tables for no reason, and that needs to be understood. Like, so for me, one of the boys smarts off to Logan or somebody else smarts off to Logan, I'm going to defend her in front of them.
Yeah.
And I think that they need to understand that as a husband and as a dad. That now I'm not saying like my kids are perfect. My kids are not.
Yeah.
But somebody says something really smart and off the wall to them, I'm going to say something. It's not just now somebody's disciplining my kids that's in like a teacher, coach, something that's authoritative.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
That's their job. That's what they're supposed to. And I've entrusted my kids in their care for a reason.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of times that we just show them how to be mean, but not gentle and dangerous at the same time.
Sure.
And there's a big difference in those two things.
Well, I think as a dad, like you have to be a dad that protects. Like you have to protect your kids. Like I thought about this one instance that my kids were. We were flying on a plane. The boys were younger. We didn't have the girls at this moment. And I told it Sunday, Kaysen was messing with that tray and it would go up, down, up, down, up, down. The guy in front kept going. He turned around and looked at me and said, "Would you control your kids, please?" And I looked at him and boy, I went into defense mode. Like as a dad, you have to protect your kids. Like I think sometimes dads think it's okay. And I know that I tell stories like as a pastor's kid, like you will be in stories. Like I don't care who you are, you will be in stories. But like dads almost view that like as a trophy. Like they talk about their kids in a negative way and it makes them feel better. Well, as we are to guard our kids and protect our kids outside. And so when that joker turned around to me, I went full blown mode. Like I was fixing to throat punch him.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got my kids. They're good. Like they're good.
Right.
And he said something else smart aleck to me. And I feel like I just kind of blurred out and the Hulk, just came like ripped the shirt off and like, busted the plane in two. And so just kidding. But it's almost like what you have to do is, you do have to protect your kids. You have to protect your wife. You have to, you are the protector and the provider of your family.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that you're going to make the most money. That doesn't mean that you're supposed to make the most money. That's not what that's about. Yep. It's that there's so many different aspects you could do it, but you have to protect your kid because this is what Proverbs 4 chapter 10 verse 15 says, "Listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. I will guide you in the way of wisdom and lead you along straight paths. And when you walk, your steps will not be hampered. When you run, you will not stumble. Hold on to instruction. Do not let it go. Guard it well, for it is your life. Do not set on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn from it and go on your own way." And so Psalms talks about how that our kids are the arrow in our hands. We are the warriors. There are arrows. And so, we're the bows, we're the bend, and we're the guy that pulls it back, but we're supposed to point the arrow. We're supposed to, put them. And at the end of the day, we release them. Like, we have to point them intentionally somewhere. Like, if I don't have any kind of mark that I as a parent want to make, like, what do you want your kids to be? You want them to be successful, rich, and famous? No, I want them to be godly. I want them to be loving, and I want them to be faithful, respectable. Like, that's what I want. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's what I want. And so you have to set the tone with them by pulling them back and pointing them in that direction and releasing them one day and pointing them in that direction. And so we have to guide them in which way to go. And if we don't guide them, they're going to see a perverted version of what godliness is really about in their community.
Yeah. And what your sermon was talking about as far as being kingdom fathers, I think that that's important too, because, and it goes back to kind of like what you just said. How many times do you hear somebody say, well, I want my kids to have it better than I had it? I agree with that, but I want to be a kingdom man, but I want my kids to be even better kingdom men than I am, for them to take the example that I've set, hopefully a good one, and then them take and be even better and pass that on to their kids.
Yeah.
And then, one of my buddies, he always says the statement, like we always would talk about, well, I can't believe I'm having kids in this generation with the way things are. And he always goes, well, if we don't, who's going to raise the good kids?
Yeah.
Who's going to raise the next generation of godly people if godly people aren't having kids?
Yeah.
So,
yep.
And boy, if Fairview don't have a bunch of them coming in at the moment.
I know it, boy. Ain't that the truth? I know. There is no successful there's no just one, what is it? Design for fatherhood. Yeah. Like, there are things, dude, I'm learning every single day. Like, I learn something every single day. And so there are glimpses sometimes where you go, man, I'm getting it right. Man, I'm doing good. Then there's other times where you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But like, we were somewhere the other day, and where were we? I don't know if we were eating somewhere. Oh, we were at the airport. I made notes. We were at the airport before we left for our trip a few weeks ago. I literally wrote it in my journal about different families I've seen. And it was like, God put families in our path that God wanted us to see. One of them in particular was, I could pull it up. One of them in particular was a family that had like 3 younger kids. Dude, they were like jumping off tables and chairs, and mom and dad were going, oh. And I'm going, oh my God. And Lindsay looked at me and she hit me and she goes, look how calm the parents are. I'm like, well, wild the kids are. You kidding me? And she's going, like, our kids never have done that. Like, I mean, they're rambunctious and wild at times.
Right.
But like, sometimes you see things and it's like God, allows you to see it. So you're like, maybe my kids aren't as bad as I think they are. But we watched the reaction of the mom and dad, and I wrote it down and was going, oh man, like if I could be that calm. So I said, today, let's see, another family I was observing is what looks like to be a younger couple with 3 to 4 kids along with their grandparents. The kids are jumping around chairs, standing on the side of the tables, jumping in the air. Seriously, this kid would stand on top of that table, jump up in the air, and land on his knees on that table. I'm going, okay, number one, you're going to break your knees. Number two, you're going to break that table. Number three, I'm going to break your butt. Okay. And he was jumping in the air, landing on his knees on the table beside the parents. And then the mom sees the kid, reaches over, rubs back the kid's back, and starts laughing. And I'm like, I wish I had that much patience. Their kids are running around like crazy, but yet they are calm and undisturbed. Dad is lounging on the floor, not a care of how the kids are acting. Family is very laid back and patient. But here's the other family that I saw over here beside him. Oops. Here it is. Another one looked like a single dad. I noticed he wasn't wearing a ring. He was with his son and his daughter. They looked like they were both teenagers. To my knowledge, the kids have been quiet and calm, but the dad seems upset and very angry and very uptight. I told Lindsay maybe he's recently divorced and angry. He moved the son to the other side of him and began to chew out his son in front of everybody. The son was looking around and put his hood on. I just remember watching him. His son puts on his hoodie and begins to look around to see if anyone's watching. The daughter offers a straw to her brother to use, and the dad, gritting his teeth, says, "Do not reach it across me. Go around." Just like that. Then there was that family that walked by him. There was a family that walked by him, and he looked at him and he smiled, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how are y'all doing?" He like flipped just like that. And he said hello, and he made a joke. And the only smile that I saw out of him was when he gave it to somebody else. But when he turned to look at his kids, it was gritting his teeth. Now, notice, I think back, like, number one, I used to be the person when I was younger, I would look at him and go, man, like I would never act that way. Now I look at him and go, that could be me, depending on what kind of day I've had. Like, you better have grace and compassion on people. So you don't know what kind of day or life that guy's had with his ex-wife, wife, kids, whatever it may be. Yep. You just don't know. But I find it interesting that the only time he was loving was when another family walks by and he's showing them love. But then when his ones that are closest to him, it's the ones he usually takes his frustration. I think it's because we do that times because we know that our family's not going to go anywhere. Yeah. And to me, that's not fair.
No, it's not.
It's not fair for our kids to do that.
It's not, but I think you're 100% right because, I mean, honestly, I find myself in that situation quite often where Logan and the boys catch the brunt of whatever my bad day has been. So I know we talked about it a little bit before the podcast, but, you know, like I started a new job this past week, and that last week was hard. They got a lot of aggravated dad last week. My nerves were shot, and of course, I feel bad about it now, but in the moment, like you said, you don't know what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and we've got to catch ourselves and fix it. But it's realizing we've got a problem is the only way to fix it.
Right.
And, you know, that's something that obviously me and God have got to work through. But that's I think that's a great observation. And I feel like there's probably some dads on here that's listening that are going through the same thing right now, where they're going through a life transition or this just been a bad day and they've had it out with their children or whatnot. I will say this though, don't give up. Don't look at yourself like, oh man, I'm a horrible dad. Like, just fix it. Like, work at getting better. Like, you're not horrible. Your kids still love you. Just we got to get
there's always
past it.
There's always someone that's worse off than you are. I promise you. And because what the devil wants to do is the devil wants you to feel like you're the only one that's dealing with that. And you're the only one around you that is acting that way. And so as humans, we make mistakes. Like we all make mistakes. And so what we have to do is, like I said, I never saw my dad cry, and I never heard my dad say, "I'm sorry." Never.
Right.
I heard him, say a lot of stuff to my mom. I heard him. And so like growing up, I thought that was normal stuff, but it's not. And, as time went on, God changed my dad's heart, but there's that, you talk about ingredients of a godly father. You talk about, you got to be a man of the word. You got to be a man of prayer. You got to be a man of integrity. Like, you've got to have integrity. Like, You've got to show your kids what faithfulness to your spouse looks like, and what faithfulness to God looks like, and what faithfulness looks like to them. And so, there's studies that's been released of, or four pillars of a godly father, like 4 quick things: presence, protection, provision, purpose. Presence, protection, provision, purpose. So presence over presence. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
PRENCE. Did I spell that right? Presence, like, spell that right. What? I didn't want English class now. 2nd grade education.
Got the teacher in the room.
Yeah. PRESENCE over PRESENTS.
Yes.
Presence. Your presence means more than presence, because there's been studies that's been done that, I think sometimes these statistics are a little skewed. It's like when a mom brings a kid to church, like 40% success rate of being Christian. Well, I think that may be a little bit depending on who it is.
Yeah.
But like when a dad comes, it's 90%. Well, what if it's both of them?
Yeah.
Well, it's both of them. There is more of a success rate. Like there has been studies I know for a fact that have said when like gang members, people that are in gangs, have one common denominator: no dad. One common denominator: no dad. When a kid does not have a dad, does not have a parent leading them, then it changes their whole persona and their whole identity. So the dad has to be there more than provision, more than purpose, more than peace. You have to be present. You have to be there. And so for me, like, I schedule things around my kids. Well, dude, you're always going. Like, we got football practice this summer. Well, we got vacation. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ain't gonna change, bud. Ain't gonna change. So you got to be there. Number 2, you got to be a protector. Like, you got to be a spiritual, emotional, and physical covering for your family. And so, a while back, the Lord told me to circle around my house and pray and anoint, and then go to the 4 corners of our house, and then the acre that we have, and pray over it. And so, it's like, you are setting the tone for your family. And so, devil, I rebuke every vile, foul, demonic force that you're trying to send to my kids' room, because there have been times to where my kids wake up screaming and crying, and I didn't know why. And I'm like, well, maybe they're just, just waking up, and they have nightmares a lot. And they're like, they wake up and they're getting in that mood, or they're like, oh, it's like, pow, go back to sleep. And so, but not recently, a while back, we started realizing that a lot of this is spiritual. Yeah. And so we went into I can't tell you how many times we've opened up the windows of our house, anointed our rooms, our house. If you've not done this, you need to do this. You need to open up every room of your house, open every room, a window of your kids' rooms, your bedroom, get oil, get the anointing oil. Like, where did I get that anointing oil? Jerusalem, man, go to Walmart and buy olive oil or something. Like, just find something. Open every entry and exit of your house, window, door, and pray in the name of Jesus and get that stuff out. John Kilpatrick said whenever they did the revival at Brownsville, every night they'd have people coming in, and they'd have devils cast out, they'd have healings and all this kind of stuff. Well, then the Lord told him, said, you need to cleanse the house. There's many times in Scripture, clean the house.
Yeah.
So he said they'd open all the doors of the church, and a prayer team would come in after that and would pray that whatever spirits that were kind of lounging in there, vile, evil, bad spirits, would leave. And so I've done that in my house, and I can't tell you the weight that's been lifted that we've felt. So you got to protect your family. You got to protect what they're watching, what they're seeing, what they're doing. Number 3, you got to provide for them. And we know, like, it's not just financially, but it's stability, it's identity, it's direction. You got to give your kids direction and identity. Like, they're not going to get it in you, but you are the vessel for God to your kids that says, hey, you're worth something today.
Yeah.
Like, you matter. And then purpose. You have to lead your family with God-given vision. And so, I don't want to take a lot of time because I know where we are, and this maybe have to be a 7 gift driven person. So, like, what is your love language? Lindsay's is different than mine, similar than mine, different, similar, whatever. But I love gifts. I love surprises. She hates it. She hates it. She surprised me with a Braves trip, and I'm like, what? You have to kidding me? Like, what? If I'd done that to her, she's like, we hate surprises. Just tell us what it is so with that we know. And I'm like, well, you just sucked the fun out of that, you fun sucker. What is that movie off of? Fun sucker. Anyways, it's a show. We'll find it. And we were sitting down, and she wrote down. I remember I was having a moment. I'm quick to tell this for many reasons. I was having a moment with myself, and I was going, I just feel like I failed in so many ways as a pastor. I feel like I failed as a husband, as a father. Just feel like I'm just like nothing, like maybe it's just better. I've had these moments too. Like maybe it's just better for me just to be just go drive a truck or something like that. Maybe it's just, 9 to 5 and be done. But my wife was like, that's not you. Like, and so she wrote down some things. I'm like, what are you writing down? She wrote down like things that she thought about me, like 30 different things on a paper. She was like, I've always thought these things about you. And I was like, I'll read these later when it's not just me and you. She said, these are things that I've always thought about you. And I put it in my Bible and I read it that evening, and man, it touched my heart. But not only that, like as dads, it's hard for us as dads to be vulnerable. Like it's very, very hard for us to be vulnerable. So for me, in that split moment, I was crying. I was just crying. I was having a moment with the Lord, I guess. And I remember I was crying, and I called my son Case, and I said, hey, I want you to come down here for a minute. He was like, okay. And he ran down. He said, Dad, where are you at? Dad, where you at? And I was crying because I knew I was fixing to do. And my wife was sitting here over on the little sofa that we have right here, sofa couch in the little office area that we have in the house. And she said, he's in here. And she was crying. And I looked at him with tears in his eyes, with my eyes. He looked at me. He goes, what's wrong? What's wrong? I was like, Dad, just having a moment. I said, can you do me a favor? He said, yeah. I said, can you pray for me? He goes, yeah, I guess. I'm like, son, don't be weird. Can you just please pray for your dad? And I remember I put my head down like this, just like this, because I was so ashamed. I felt like I was so ashamed because I was like, I need to be praying for my kids. But like there was a connection in that vulnerability. I really felt like the Holy Spirit was saying, have Case and pray for you.
Right.
I put my head down, and I don't think I've cried as hard as I did in a long time. I cried. He put his hand on the back of me. He was praying, and I just felt these arms come around me and just wrap themselves around me. And it was my wife, and she was crying. I was crying. Kaysen was crying, and we just had a moment. And I remember when we said amen, I just felt like there was a burden. I just felt very light-weighted.
Right.
Felt like in that moment, like everything that I had been dealing with just went.
Yep.
And you can almost say it's a fifth pillar of being a godly dad is that you have to be vulnerable.
Yep.
And sometimes integrity takes vulnerability. Vulnerability to say, hey, I messed up. Hey, I've made mistakes, or you know what, y'all, dad's really struggling right now. Like,
right.
I've never heard my dad say that.
Yeah.
I've never heard guys say that. It's always we good.
Yeah.
We good, dude. And I'm going, y'all, just open up. Like, tell each other what really is the matter. And I'm going, okay, I struggle with that too. So I know why other people are struggling with it. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we all have to be vulnerable with each other in so many different ways.
We do. And I think we have to, and I'm going to lead into a little bit of a story, I guess, myself, but with you saying that, I think there's a certain vulnerability that we have to teach our kids in God.
Yeah.
Because, and I think it was very great and important that you had Kaysen do that because, and it's funny, I guess, with our boys obviously have not been raised necessarily in this environment until we got here, right?
Yeah.
And I guess hanging out with Kaysen and stuff, Paxton's starting to somewhat ask questions, right? And it got brought up to us the other day, like, what happens when everybody goes up front and y'all are praying? What is that? Like, well, what's that about? And so I was trying to explain that, and he's like, well, how do you know when you go?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you'll have a feeling like, I was like, you'll know. Sometimes you just have to make the decision to go, but there's other times where you'll have a feeling like you need to go pray for this person.
Right.
And that's not a decision for you to make at that point. Right. That's a command. You need to go. And it gave me the opportunity to tell them, like, I guess it was, I don't know, like our second or third Sunday here, that Jaron went to pray with somebody, and I felt like I needed to go be with Jaron.
Yep.
I didn't. I stood still.
Yep.
And I have regretted it ever since.
Yep.
You know, I didn't move. I was told to move and didn't.
Yeah.
And so it gave me a chance to go, this is what it feels like when you don't follow that command. And this is something that you have to deal with.
Yep.
So when that happens, when you feel that calling to go, go. And you may not even know what the prayer's about, but you'll know when you get there.
Yep.
Even if you don't know the exact subject, God will lead you. Just pray.
Yeah.
You know,
and the Holy Spirit will guide you everywhere you go.
Yep. And I think that's important as godly men, like teaching our kids how to pray too. Like, geez, I mean, I think you actually had mentioned this in a podcast too. Like that's one thing that I was never taught. I was raised in church, but nobody ever said like, this is how you pray, or like, you know, it was just like, we just copied the same thing that we saw everybody else doing, but it wasn't necessarily relationship. It was like just emotion. Yeah. You just do it because that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things as dads that we've got to tackle, especially in a godly setting.
Yeah. Well, you think about a dad, like grilling. My dad is a griller. You know, a dad like mows the yard. You know, all that kind of stuff. Like I was mowing the yard the other day, and Kason was out there. He's like, Dad, can I help you? I was like, yeah. I said, get the edger. And so I helped him edge the whole yard. And I was like, I'm going to hold on to it a little bit because I'm going to show you how to do it. And then later I'm going to release you for it. And so he did a great job with it. And then I got on the mower and I was finishing up the yard, and he's like, Dad, can I finish up? I was like, yeah, you can do it. I said, just be careful. It's a zero turn. It's hard. Just be very careful. Mm-hmm. And he did a great job. I think sometimes as dads, like we want full control because we want it to look a certain way. Now, I'm very particular about certain things, like very, very particular. Like windshield wiper blades, very particular. It's got to be good.
Right.
Like my milk, you got to have good milk, got to have good bread. You got to have good cereal, good ice cream. Like, you know, we grew up Mayfield milk or Mayfield ice cream, you know, shout out to Mayfield. And so that's great. But like we want things particular in a certain way. But with our kids, we have to show them how to do it, not just tell them, but show them and then release them to do it, because that later shows them, you know, how. There's so much I could say, but my stepdad, I remember a lot of things he said, but the greatest memory I have of my stepdad is the day before I turned 16 and got my license and got my car. He took me to Kmart. We sat in the little food area. When you old Kmart's, you'd walk in, they'd have like a hot dog area, popcorn, Coke, and you come over and sit. We sat down there, and literally people would walk in, and he would be like, look at that person. She's not wearing rings. She's got 4 or 5 kids. What do you think's story there? And I'm going, I don't know. He's like, well, he told me, he said, tomorrow you will have the freedom to do whatever you want to do. You'll go places your mom and I will never know where you go. But he said, just remember, the Lord's always there to watch you. He always sees you. Mm-hmm. Whatever mistake that you make, you're putting that girl in that position. But I was always scared to do that stuff anyways, because Mom told me, she said, you bring a kid home, she said, I won't kill you. I'm like, okay, well, probably shouldn't do that then, Mama.
Right.
You know, so I remember him being intentional.
Yes.
My stepdad is one of the busiest human beings in this world, always working. He owns him and my mom own their own excavation company.
Right.
Very, very busy. So now I have to text him and be like, hey, call me, you get a chance. He'll call me, like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, call me later. And so, but then he took time to share a blessing with me over his busyness.
Yep.
And I will never forget it. And so what I've tried to do is that I've tried not to be the perfect dad. I've just tried to be a dad that's there.
Yep.
And to be present.
Yep. We're
kind of stuck on that.
Yep. No, and I get it though, because like that was my dad's thing. Every time we walked out the door, and this was me or my brother, it didn't matter. Actually, it was all the way back probably when we were 13, 14 years old, starting to go to like school ball practices and stuff. When we would leave, I guess he was trying to kind of do the same thing, because it was always the same line. Every time we walked out the door, remember who you are and whose you are. Mm-hmm. That was it. That's it. That's all he says. I love you. Be careful. Remember whose you are and who you are. Yep. And that was it. But till we walk back in that door, that's set in our mind as a, yep. We have professed to be a child of God. And if we don't act like it, people are going to notice. Yep. Yep. And I think that's important as dads, like that we, again, on the integrity side of it, if we're going to profess to be Christians and be godly men, we've got to act like it, even in front of our family, and even when we're not in front of our family. Right. Behind closed doors, we've got to be the same person.
Right. I mean, what benefit is it if that, just say, like, it's just me because I'm a preacher, I'm a pastor. And so what good is it if I win all these people to Christ, but yet I lose my 4 kids at home and my wife? Like, what good of effect? I don't think God honors that.
No. And I think it was all the way back at the very first podcast. I think you actually mentioned that, as far as a lot of preachers' kids go by the wayside because they don't get ministered to.
Yeah.
Because the mom and dad are too worried about ministering to everybody else.
Yep.
And Logan and I have seen that firsthand. We have, like, we've lived in that realm. And just to see the way that you and Lindsay interact with y'all's kids is awesome, because you can see it. You can see the interaction, which is not something you see.
Man. Every day is a struggle. And it's because, I mean, you think today we were looking at a camper today, and, like we had an iPad here, just like sometimes, like, you want to give it to him and be like, just like, take it and be quiet. Like, right. Please just be quiet. Like, sometimes you look around and you see people going, I can't believe they have those kids on the iPad. I just can't. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, how'd your kids turn out? I'm just wondering how y'all's kids turned out, because we are very quick to judge other people, but we don't know anything about their situation.
Yep.
And some people say, well, that may be an insecurity check. No, not really. I mean, I guess maybe, but it's like, let me parent my kids and you parent your own. And so there are moments like, like for Kaysen, he's like loving the MLB The Show 25. Golly, he just got it and he's loving it. And I'm like, son, like, I told him turn it off last night. I said, all right, you got 15 more minutes. You're going to turn it off. I said, we're going to have some family time. And he said, what? What are I going to do that, Daddy? And I'm going, because we're going to have family time. And I said, why do you act like this every time that I ask you to turn something off? He said, you think I'm addicted or something? I'm like, you are majorly addicted. I said, you need to put that junk up, and because we're going to have family time. And so they ended up watching the new Minecraft movie that just came out or whatever, and they're like loving it. And so next thing you know, all 4 of them's asleep, and I'm going, well, that was easy. Yeah. It was like that every time.
Yep.
But it's just the power of being present and just being there is, it being intent, have integrity, be intentional, be present. Like that. I want to teach my kid how to change a tire. I want to teach them how to change the oil in the car. Like, those things are coming.
Yep.
But bro, like, they're 11, 9, 7, and 5 years old. Like, they're not, let them be kids.
Yep.
Like, let them be kids and, like, have fun with them. And so sometimes I'll tell Lindsay, I'm like, hey, I'm going to take the kids. I'm going to let you just, have your alone time, do your own thing. I'm going to take them and we're going to go get ice cream and go to the park and play or something like that. And she's okay. I appreciate it. I just want to be there, because I never forget it when growing up, when I played baseball, there's 2 instances that I remember playing baseball, is that I remember one instance, we were not the best team in the league at this moment. I was a little younger. And I remember we beat the best team in the league. And I got home because Dad got off work late or something. And I showed up. We showed up at home, and I was inside ecstatic to show my dad, Dad, we beat the best team in the league. Oh, and he's going, it's great, son. Didn't look at me one time, just kept watching TV. And I remember how I felt in that moment and how like depressed and sunk down I felt. But then on the flip side of that, I remember hitting a home run, hitting like whatever. I was in the home run derby. Like, that's not egotistical. That's like just realistic. I told my wife, I said, you're married to a home run king. And she's like, oh, give me a break. And so I remember hitting those home runs in my league, and Dad came over to me, and I was like ecstatic, just got into the dugout, and Dad came in and he shook the fence. He's like, son, you were just asked to be a part of a home run derby. Like, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. How that made me feel in that moment.
Yep.
And so I remember, those are the moments I remember about my dad. And I try to reciprocate that back to my kid. And so my kids, they hate losing, but at the same time, I'm like, win or lose. I tell them before every game, win or lose, I love you and I'm proud of you.
Yep.
No matter how much bad you play, how good you play, I will always love you, because it's not determined on what you do, but who you are.
Yep. Yep. No, and it's amazing how just taking that one extra second to just tell them how proud you are of them makes a difference. I mean, that's like Paxton. He'll come up and he'll be like, hey, Dad, I did this or I did that or whatnot. You know, like, oh, I just, you know, he's into the show 25 right now. Too. I'm sure him and Kaysen are playing together. But, you know, like, hey, I just beat this team. You know, I just beat the Mariners by 30 points or something. You know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, good job. High five. You know, just a little high five. And he's like, hey, you know, and then he's on to the next thing. Like it just.
Yeah.
But that's all he needed was a, you know, high five. Good job, son. Proud of you.
Right.
You know, just the acknowledgement of it.
Yeah. Just being there. Yeah. I used to get so mad all the time by going, you know what? Like, I wish there was other ways that we could connect. And I remember one time somebody told me, said, he is trying to connect with you. Like, that's the way to connect. If you want to connect over here in this way, connect with him here.
Yep.
And so I've tried to do that, even though he's like, Dad, I just hit 16 grand slams and I beat the team 72-4. And I'm going, inside, I'm going, oh my God, like, y'all need a life.
Yeah.
Like, you need a life. But then on the outside, I'm going, man, that's awesome. Like, I can't believe you did that. Tell me what team you were or who's on your team.
Yep.
So,
and you know, for me, like that's one of the most fond memories I have with my dad, talking about the whole being present thing and the video games. So gonna, I guess, show my age a little bit here, but I had a Nintendo 64, right? And
Donkey Kong.
We had the Star Wars Pod Racers game from episode 1. And I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Even then I was, and I love that game.
Yep.
And I remember Dad had actually lost a job and had to go find another job, and he was working in retail and had crazy hours. And I remember, you know, every time he had a free chance and I was in there playing that game, he would come in there, where's my controller? Let me race with you. You know, he would prefer NASCAR or something, but I like Star Wars. So, and even now I'll hear him in there with the boys like, oh, they got pod racing on that, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's cool, man.
That's what he, you know, and I associate that with him, you know, and that he was willing to take the time, dog tired, to play that game with me.
Yep.
You know,
presence, man, power, presence over everything else. That's good.
Yep.
The greatest thing, and we can kind of close up shop here unless you have something else to say or, you know, think about this, you know, whatever. But, you know, if there's anybody listening right now, you'd say, okay, heard a lot. God spoke to me a lot of things that y'all have said. What's something else that you would say to me? The greatest thing that you can ever do as a dad is to lead your kids to Jesus. It's the greatest thing that you can ever do. I remember coming back from youth camp one time and I was crying and I just could not stop. The Holy Spirit was just so like just dealing with me about some things. And I remember that was kind of like another turning point of my life. And I remember telling my mom, going, Mom, what is this? She said, son, that's the Holy Spirit. And that's dealing with you. And said the Spirit's like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel him.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember thinking about that going, man, that's awesome. But I don't know how to deal with it. I just cannot stop crying. Like I can't stop. I don't want this feeling to stop.
Yep.
And she said, son, my greatest job was to lead you to Jesus and to trust him with the rest. That's all I need. That's all I know to do.
Yeah.
Is to trust to lead you to Jesus and to trust him to do the rest. Because at the end of the day, our job is to lead them to Christ. Nothing else. Just lead them to Christ. Not to be the best welder, the best mechanic, the best electrician, the best blah, blah, best baseball player, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But lead them to Jesus, because that's what matters most. And you lead them by how you live your example. You exemplify the life of Christ to them.
I think that's great advice. And that's, as godly men, that's our final and highest mission field, you know.
Yep.
I guess I'll end with this. Now I'm going to ask the listeners to do something for us that we typically don't do, but we've got a lot of new parents and parents with things going on in our church currently. I ask that you keep all those people in y'all's prayers. Little prayer request plug, I guess. Yeah. We've got a lot going on and a lot of prayer needed in our congregation. So I ask that you'd keep them in mind. But you know, if you're a dad, listen to this, go tell your kids you love them.
Yeah.
By all means, and make sure they see you love God. You know, put those two together. And I guess our shameless plug at the end, you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts. If you like seeing the video side of it, YouTube is the place to go. And we try to post them every Thursday. I don't think we've missed one yet. So we have had to break some of them up into parts. So if you catch one part, make sure you catch the second. This one may be one of those.
Yep.
But you know, we appreciate y'all listening.
Yep.
And on Sundays, if you don't have a home church, we'd love to have you at Fairview Church. We have, I get my times right because I have to switch between Eastern and Central. So Sunday school at 9:30,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. There we go.
Yep.
It's bad, man. I'm switching back and forth. Then service at 10.
Service at 10 o'clock Central.
6:30 on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights. Even if you attend another church on Sundays and need a place to go on Wednesdays,
leave it and come to ours. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Come hang out with us on Wednesdays. We've got a lot of different little groups. We will find a place to fit you in, and you will enjoy yourself. Have a great time.
Let me say this real quick. And I know that we're kind of closing up shop here. This is one of my favorite books. I thought about this earlier and completely forgot to say it. This is one of my favorite books of all time. And I usually read it about once a year. It's by Tom and Art Rayner. And it's called Raising Dad. And it's got a big baseball on the front of it. It says Raising Dad. It says what fathers and sons learn from each other. One of the greatest books I have ever read, not just about parenting, but about father and son. Parenting book. There's one we had about the blessing we've read, and I've done a midweek before, and then another one called 7 Principles of a Godly something. We've done a midweek from that.